Hi, welcome to Talkin' Tabletop. Today we're doing our top 5 games of dice games.
Yep.
As always, this is
Trevor.
And I am Danny, or your local game guru, game resident, whatever you want to call us.
Game enthusiast.
Game enthusiast, yeah. Well, we've been called a number of things. So today
not
we're
all of them
about,
will repeat on this video.
Yeah, and not all of them include game. So today we're going to talk about our top 5 dice games.
Yep.
Just pretty much any game that uses dice as one of the core mechanisms is how we decided this, right?
Yeah, so the main differentiation is dice has to be kind of the focal point of the game. Not like Monopoly has dice in it.
Yeah. So
dice is the primary thing. There can be cards and stuff too, but dice is the focus.
Yeah, exactly. So, which I'm going to start off by a pretty unknown company called Whatsalpawag. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's Buccaneer Bones. Really, really not talked about game, but I kind of, when I was presented Buccaneer Bones,
It started on Kickstarter.
It started on a Kickstarter. Small little box, not the best graphic design, but the designer, he said, hey, you want to try it? Like, sure, why not? I have a couple minutes. And he showed me, and I was just taken by this game. I love the way it works. Very simple. Roll 4 dice. Try and get pairs to move your little ship to the island. But when you get to an island, you get an ability, which might let you roll dice, or modify dice, or re-roll dice more. And it's incredibly simple. You're just trying to do that 3 times. So almost an abstract game, but I love every minute of it. Buccaneer Bones.
Yep.
So
my number 5 is a game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is set
slightly more known.
Yeah.
Yeah, slightly.
This is set in the Arkham universe, not Batman, but Cthulhu. It's Elder Sign. So it is a really fun dice, what would we call it, dice matching game. Essentially, you have challenges at different locations in the Miskatonic University Museum that you're trying to complete. And it'll be like, you need to roll a number of investigation and a number of terror and these things to complete this card. And then when you get that, you get trophies that you can then use to buy things or get upgrades or heal yourself, things like that. Ultimately, you are all working together to try to seal away one of a number of various ancient ones from H.P. Lovecraft's mythos. And that's...
No, it's an awesome game. This is my favorite of the H.P. Lovecraft games, pretty much. Especially from Fantasy Flight. I mean, I like Arkham, I like Eldritch, but it gets to the table. And it plays really well.
It's faster than Arkham or Eldritch. Arkham and Eldritch can be, like, this is game night.
Yeah.
Where, like, you bring that to the table, and that's all you're playing.
Yeah.
Elder Sign takes maybe hour, 90 minutes.
Maybe.
And so you have time to play something else. But still get the same experience.
Yeah. Speaking of a really long game and an experience, my number 4 is Fuse. 10 minutes. That's it. Defuse a bomb. Yeah. Absolutely frantic. The best part about it, it's kind of like Elder Sign, where you're trying to match it, where you have a bunch of cards that are your fuse cards. These fuse cards have either colors or numbers or a pattern on it, where you're trying to get dice that do it. What makes this game great is that everybody has to work together. If there's 4 people playing, whoever's rolling the dice grabs 4 dice, 1 for every player, rolls it, and you all shout, "Oh, I need the black dice. Oh, no, I need the 4. I need anything that's 3 and under, whatever." And you have to kind of mitigate those dice, because every player gets 1 dice. They have to. Only. Yeah, and if they get something they can't use, you roll it. That's basically a bomb, and you have to discard either that color or that number. And while you're doing that in a 10-minute time frame,
every game is 10 minutes or less.
Yeah, 10 minutes or less. So, and you can ramp up the difficulty by just adding more cards. Yeah. Super simple. Carries in like a small bag. It's in a decent-sized box, but you don't need it.
The whole thing will fit in like a dice bag.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, easily.
Because it's a deck of cards and a bunch of dice.
And I like the digital font on the dice.
It looks like that.
It looks great.
It looks like your display on your DVD player or VHS
People
player.
Have those now.
Your Betamax.
Yeah, what your record timekeeper. Yeah.
It looks like that on your Casio calculator watch.
On the car radio in your Pinto.
Your Commodore 64.
Yes.
So my number 4 is by Prolific Games, a slightly smaller company again. They've done a few really cool games. Of note, they're probably their most famous one is Flapjacks and Sasquatches. It is a lot of fun. You are playing as lumberjacks. You are rolling dice to try to chop down trees. Each of these various trees are worth more points potentially. There's a number of expansions adding bacon and pancakes and coffee, and each of these things will give you power-ups and more boosts. And then you have these Sasquatch cards that are essentially ones you play that will backstab the other players. So it might be like a Sasquatch mating season, and you have lumberjack being carried off by a Sasquatch, and he's like, no, and it's everyone loses their equipment, and then everyone's like, well, that sucks because the Sasquatch ran off with all our stuff. So very, very fun. If you like Munchkin but wish it was more dice heavy, Flapjacks and Sasquatches.
Yeah, it's a silly game. Mm-hmm. My number 3 is Martian Dice by designer Scott Olms, I believe. You have about 15 dice. You roll them all at once, and then you pick groups of either cows, people, or chickens to save, and you can only save one group at a time. But sometimes you're going to be rolling tanks, and you have to get death rays in order to fend them off. In order to score points, you have to have at least as many death rays as you have tanks going after you. They cancel 1 for 1, but if you have at least one more tank, then you don't score anything for that. But you also, if you get a set of each of the 3, you get a bonus 3 points. So it adds on to that. You always kind of want to push your luck to that point. Yeah. But if you roll only the certain kind of animal or person that you can't set aside, then you bust. So it's a cool little push your luck element. And then everybody loves just grabbing a handful of dice and dumping them on the table. It's so satisfying. So Martian Dice is my number 3. And would you like to wait to talk about this one more in detail?
I actually just remembered that this one has been replaced on my list.
Oh, okay.
So my new number 3 is actually a newer one by Steve Jackson Games. This is Batman the Dice Game.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're familiar with zombie dice, which if you're not, then you probably haven't lived.
Or how did you find this channel?
Right. The makeup tutorials are in the link in the description below. You'll probably want to go watch those. No, if you are a gamer, you have played zombie dice, pure and simple. That's like one of the first infectionary games. Mm-hmm. So Batman Dice takes that and builds upon it. In this, rather than having brains, shots, and runners, you have bank bags, Batman symbols, and alarms, respectively. Except that each of you also has a variable player power, where one of you plays as the Riddler, one is the Joker, one is Catwoman, one is Poison Ivy, and each of you has a different ability. So rather than zombie dice, where there are 13 dice exactly, and you need 13 points to win, in Batman Dice, you need 30 points to win, but there's only 10 dice, so there's no possible way that you can have that clean sweep. It is rare, but it can happen in zombie dice, where someone can get a perfect 13 brain roll and win the game in one turn.
Yep.
And that takes the fun out of it, where it's like, well, I had a lot of fun playing this, except I didn't play, because he won on his first turn.
But at the same time, you're kind of rooting. There might always be that one player who tries to go for broke.
And it is fun to see those moments where someone gets to like 10 brains and gets the final 3 dice out and it's 3 shots and they're like, no! But yeah, no, I really enjoy Batman Dice. There's also some promos that have come out, like Mr. Freeze. I think they're doing a promotion for a playmat for your FLGS. So definitely stop by and check that one out, because it's a lot of fun. Fits in a cup like that.
Yeah. It's, if you like zombie dice and you like Batman, you get it. That's a no-brainer.
And it's Batman the Animated Series, no-brainer.
Zombie
this
dice.
Guy.
All right. So
number 2.
Number 2 for me is a classic game made in the '80s by Sid Saxon. It is probably the best push your luck dice game I've ever played in my life. Can't stop. All you're doing is you just have a stop sign where you have the numbers 2 through 12, all the possible dice rolls. 7 is the longest because that's the most common with 2 dice. You roll 4 dice and you pick 2 pairs of dice. So if I roll a 1, 2, 3, and 4, I can put a 1 and 4 and a 2 and 3. Well, I have 2 things of 5s. I have these little runner cones. You only have 3 throughout the entire game that you're progressing throughout this track. Mm-hmm. And then every turn you could either keep trying to push your runners further or introduce new ones if you have any, or try and save your state, which just means you move your colored cones to that spot. It's a save, and you gain only that progress, and you continue from that next turn, but that also opens the door for the next player to try and jump ahead of you and score points. It's so good. It works with 2, 3, and 4 players perfectly. I've never seen a game of this go bad. It's exciting the whole time. So, Can't Stop by Sid Saxon.
Awesome. My number 2 is a game that is absolutely adorable. I first heard about it the first year I went to Gamma, which was 2015?
Yeah, I think so.
Ninja Dice. I cannot remember the company's name, so I do apologize. But Ninja Dice, if you Google it, I'm sure it'll show up. But really, really super fun game. It is one of the only dice games I have ever played in which where the dice land is as important as what they land on. So, like, you'll have every turn you have a house. The player to your left rolls the house, which determines the challenges. It could be nobles or shoguns or traps, and then you take your ninja dice and roll them, and that's what you potentially have to pair up against the challenges. However, all of the other players are playing as competing ninja, and they get to roll a die. If it comes up with an arrow, everything from the line on the arrow die forward into infinity, any die that falls in that section, they can steal a coin from one of those players. So if Danny rolls his and it comes up with an arrow pointing off over here, and one of my dice happens to cascade into that area, he can steal the coins that I've worked so hard to try and get. Meanwhile, if another player rolls an arrow and they try to steal from Danny and he rolled a catch, he can stop them from stealing from him. So it's really, really fun. It's one of the few times that I've ever played a game where it's you roll and then nobody touch anything. Like, just leave them where they're at. Yep. Don't like grab them and start to like, nope, don't touch it.
Yeah.
So
everybody instinctively wants to just gather them up. And,
no. And the whole thing comes in like a little soft ninja face pouch. That's absolutely adorable.
I've seen that. Yeah. So, you're gonna have to show me that one.
Ninja Dice
sounds really good. I've never played that one before.
Oh. There we go.
So my number 1 is a game called Dungeon Roll. Speaking of great little containers, this comes in a treasure chest.
Yep.
Annoying for my shelf, honestly, but I love the packaging. You open it up, you have 15 dice. There's a 10-sided die that just shows the rounds, and then you each get 7 dice. There's the good guys and the bad guys. You roll 1 die for every level you go deeper into the dungeon, whereas at the beginning you roll your hero dice, and that's what you stay with for the entire round. So the push your luck element, a lot of dice games use push your luck.
Yep.
This just kind of has you choose how many levels do I want to keep going with what I have left, because you have to
discard also
them
have
one
like depending on what your character's role is, you can level up at a certain point, and then you'll have like a once per delve ability and various other things that will help you out. Really fun one. You have different ways to re-roll the dice to get new faces. Certain, like warriors can take on any number of goblins. Yeah. So sometimes certain things will be more helpful. And
then defeating the dragon, which can come up every once in a while, which you get treasure and experience from. And then you get treasure tokens that add more abilities. One of
the few reasons I've ever seen someone buy the special edition Legend of Zelda Yahtzee, because it came with a chest that opens and goes da na na na, just so they could keep dungeon rolling. Yeah. So every time you get a treasure out, it does the Legend of Zelda song.
Yeah. No, that was a great modification. I forgot about that. That was really good. So my number 1, Dungeon Roll.
By Tasty Minstrel Games.
Tasty Minstrel, yep. They're big one.
My number 1 is a game by Yellow, and that is it's technically 2 games. I consider them roughly the same. One is essentially just kind of more the advanced play version of the first, and that is the King of Tokyo, King of New York series. So King of Tokyo is much more the simplified one. You are all playing as giant kaiju monsters battling for control over Tokyo. You're trying to be the first to 20 victory points or last monster standing, because you are giant monsters and things happen. You fight each other. Deal with it. King of New York, however, takes that to a whole new level where you have the different boroughs of New York. You are trying to gain control of Manhattan, but as you are progressing through, buildings are getting smashed and military units show up, and it is one of the few games that I've seen that can end in an absolute stalemate where no one wins.
Yeah.
Everyone lost in a competitive game. Everyone losing in a co-op game, that's one thing. Everyone loses in a competitive game, that's rare.
Yeah.
And it has happened to me about probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
That has happened.
Yeah,
so,
which is just silly at that point.
And they've got tons of expansions, adding power-up cards that give your monsters new abilities. You can
New
add
characters.
essentially, the Kung Fu Panda, Jack Skellington for all intents and purposes. Cthulhu is the new one. Yeah, Cthulhu is now officially in the game, which a lot of people were upset because they re-released it with new artwork. And they took out the Kraken from the original one and added in the Space Penguin. And people are like, well, why the hell would you do that? We like the Kraken. It's because, like, a month later, Cthulhu comes out. So why are you going to have the Kraken when you got the official license to what the Kraken is?
Yeah.
And that is the Lord of Madness himself. So, there you go. That is our top 5 dice games.
Yeah, so join us next week where we're going to review the top...
Something else.
Yeah. Well, just check next week. You'll see what it is. We're looking forward to it then. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.